morning, it's Sam Frost here, back with some more digital marketing advice. Now in today's video, I want to talk a bit more generally about Google's recent May 2022 algorithm update and what it might mean for the sort of future of digital marketing and what you're trying to achieve with promoting your business online. Now this update is actually still, at the time of recording this video, theoretically in the process of rolling out, so it's quite hard for me to say exactly what's going to happen. But what does seem to have happened, looking at SEO forums online and discussion groups on Facebook and so on, places like Reddit as well, is that a lot of businesses have said, hey, or a lot of website owners have said, hey, was doing really well with traffic, and then all of a sudden in organic rankings, and all of a sudden with this update, I've lost a whole lot of sort of position 1 rankings or a whole lot of featured snippets. So if you know what a featured snippet is, you probably already know where I'm going with this, but a featured snippet is that little section in Google often that shows up for a question type search, where Google basically extracts an answer out of a web page and presents that answer concisely, and then you see it right at the top of the search result. You can click through on that search result or that featured snippet, and it will jump to the relevant answer on the page. A lot of websites have sort of sprung up and grown over the years trying to pursue that kind of question and answer methodology, and it's something I recommend on this channel as well. So I don't want to be a hypocrite and say I never recommended doing this, because I definitely did. But I think what's happened here is that with this update, and this is really just a bit of conjecture, and I welcome any comment on this as well, is that Google seems to have taken a bit of a sort of dim view of websites that have gone after these featured snippets and just sort of churned out endless amounts of question and answer content where there's been very poor value. So I saw a really interesting post or discussion on a Reddit discussion board actually, where the user who made the post was looking at different sort of data points around this, and one of the conclusions they'd come to was that Google, with this update, is wanting to more and more try and recommend answers to questions that exist on discussion type sites like forums or Reddit, or discussion boards. And so what Google's been trying to do is sort of strip away, in some instances, these featured snippets, which is where a sort of standalone content focused site takes that top position, and for at least in this user's experience, starting to show basically results from discussion boards and forums. Now, why would Google do this? Well, part of the reason this Reddit user was arguing, and I would agree with them as well, is that oftentimes discussion boards, Reddit posts, Quora threads, all those kind of things actually offer better answers than what content publishers are putting out on websites. So there's been this big trend, both in the sort of business-to-business digital marketing space and in the business-to-consumer digital marketing space, and the affiliate marketing or sort of make money online sphere as well, which has actually been one of the bigger drivers of this, to just go out and find every conceivable question in your niche or your industry and create posts as quickly and as sort of efficiently as possible that answer all those questions, and just ram dozens and dozens of new pages of content onto your site every week or every month. And oftentimes it's driven off wanting to get huge amounts of organic traffic and then monetize that via display advertising. So as things like affiliate marketing become a bit more challenging, savvy sort of operators online have figured out that you can do really well by instead just getting lots of organic traffic for informational searches by answering these questions, grabbing featured snippets in the process, and then actually displaying ads via Google AdSense or Mediavine or any of those kind of ad systems. Now, what this has led to is this scenario where there's, to quote an old saying, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. And you go and you make a search. You've probably experienced this yourself. You go and make a search, and there are like a trillion different answers that show up, and almost all of them are rubbish. So although they have the exact keyword you've searched in the answer, and it's all SEO to kingdom come, if you actually go and read the content, you get to the end and go, I didn't learn anything useful here. Or in some cases, you go and you look at things and every answer is sort of factually incorrect. I was doing some research actually for one of my own informational sites the other day, and I Googled a keyword I was going to write a piece of content for, and the featured snippet that popped up, I went through and looked at it and thought, that doesn't seem quite right. And I did a bit of sort of cross-referencing and checking, and every single fact that was claimed in that article was completely wrong. But Google was just showing it in that featured snippet position because that was basically the only website, this one, that had a very specific answer to that question, even though the content was totally wrong. I think at a sort of wider level, what Google's basically looking to do with this update is start this process potentially of saying, hey, we recognize that there's just too much information now, And actually, oftentimes you can get better information as a user by going on somewhere like Reddit or Quora or a niche discussion forum or board where someone who isn't writing to hit a certain word count to try and rank on Google will give a more concise answer and give a more accurate answer. And if I look at my own browsing habits, I'll often do that. If I've got a question, I'll just type that question and then tack reddit.com on the end and go and pick one of the first answers that pops up. You know, what's the best laptop for business travel, for example. If I go and Google that in Google, I'll get a whole load of rubbish sort of made for Amazon review sites that have no real insights or anything like that. And then if I do find an information site, I've got to dig through 500,000 words of filler content before I get to what the actual point is. Whereas if I just search on on Reddit and filter by recent, I'll often find some pretty good content there. Same with niche discussion boards and so on. Things like dog training is a classic example, right? If you Google a question related to dog training, I've got a border collie who takes a lot of training and a lot of my time. If I Google something, oftentimes the featured snippet, article responses, or question answers are rubbish, but if I go and jump on a discussion board or Reddit, I'll get a really good answer really quickly. And so yeah, at a wider level, I think this is a really key point to focus on, is if you want to do content marketing, if you want to answer questions and solve problems, make sure your content actually does that. Okay, doing the best job at SEO is important, and getting all those on-page metrics right and everything so you're more likely to rank is key. But what Google seems to be doing here is saying, hey, we understand that from a user's perspective, this is actually getting really annoying now. It's actually hard to find good information because there are so many players all trying to jack those featured snippets and those top rankings by basically picking easy to rank for keywords that don't have a great amount of competition, churning out content that looks nice and reads well enough but has no great value and oftentimes does not answer the question. And this is typically a problem where these bigger websites especially go and outsource every single piece of content, and they just want stuff that's grammatically correct, somewhat factually correct, and reads well enough. You slap it up on the website and you stick some display ads on it and you leave it and you move on to the next piece. And from an end user's perspective, that's really frustrating because you read that piece of content that Google was recommending and you're no better off than you were before. In fact, you've wasted time. Whereas if you go look at Reddit or a sort of industry discussion board or specialist forum or something like that, there might be some guy with 2,000 posts on this forum and he was last active 10 years ago, but he's given a 2-sentence answer that answers the question far better than any of these other pieces of content ever do. So if you want to do content creation and you want to make sure you have longevity in this space, I guess what I'm really trying to say is you have to make sure your content actually answers the questions and adds value. Don't just pick keywords and hit word counts and load content up and expect that to always work, because as you can see with this algorithm update, I think that's what really Google was trying to go after, is starting this process of identifying sites that maybe have a lot of content and it's a lot of unique content and it's not necessarily poor quality in the way it reads, but it's basically useless because it adds no additional context or great value to the industry or to the niche. And instead, all it's doing is just existing purely for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to get views to drive ad revenue. So yeah, hopefully you found that helpful. I'd be keen to hear your thoughts. I'll be doing a few more sort of vlog style videos on this topic in the near future, but definitely feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.